Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Pulse. I'm Keanna Faircloth, host of Afternoon Jazz on WBGO. Thank you so much for joining in. And I'm super excited, elated, because I've got jazz royalty in the house tonight. His name is Bill Charlap. You may know him, may have heard of him. He's got one of the best jazz trios in the world today. And he is the Grammy Award winning Bill Charlap. Not only that, though, he is just an amazing guy, and he's giving back because he is also a professor at William Patterson University, where he is right now. And he joins me right now here on the Pulse. Welcome, Bill.
How are you, Keanna?
Oh man, I'm so good. I'm really honored to have you here, man.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm really appreciate all the things you said, and I'm excited to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad we could get this thing together here so that you could be on the Pulse. I really feel like you are just, you're on the Pulse, obviously, because you keep your eye and your ear on to the ground and what's new and what's now and what's happening next in music. You're actually nurturing the next generation of music and musicians and passing that torch on to the young people of today. You're at William Patterson right now.
Yes, I am. I'm very proud to be the director of jazz studies at this illustrious program. I certainly don't do it alone. We have an unbelievable faculty and an incredible legacy. The past directors of jazz studies were my heroes: Thad Jones, Rufus Reid,
Wow.
the late great James Williams, the late great Mulgrew Miller. I can't say enough about the program and about the wonderful students and wonderful faculty that we have here at WPU.
How long have you been there now?
For 6 years.
Wow. I'm sure you have seen some talent that you would say, I feel like you're going to be a household name.
Oh, there's no doubt. We have some very special students here, and I've seen all kinds of brilliant talents of today, talents of tomorrow. And our music still attracts just the greatest intellects and the greatest virtuoso players. So Absolutely. It's wonderful to see all these different perspectives on the music, and I learn from my students.
I'm sure you're always learning and picking up something, because it's a two-way street being a teacher. I'm sure you don't just provide the knowledge, you also, as you said, you gain from the students as well.
Well, there's nothing that's more important than having the ability to listen. It's about the greatest skill for a musician, and to listen to what you think somebody might need, or what you can help them with, and to listen to their person, because not everybody, it's not a cookie cutter. Everybody is 100% and unique individual. That's just how we are. That's the best part of being.
And that really is the best thing about jazz, because it is not cookie cutter. You have your purists, of course, out there that think, jazz is supposed to sound this way at all times. But what is your take on that, especially with the way the music is constantly evolving?
It's all about the individual expressing themselves with depth and honesty and a sense of the past, the present, and the future, all at the same time. The spirit of Louis Armstrong is also in the spirit of Wayne Shorter. It goes beyond style. This music is a very profound art form, and there is so much room for so many conceptions.
Absolutely. And I know that, you get your love of music quite honestly, of course. Dad, composer, Moose Charlap, mom, vocalist, Sandy Stewart, your brother is a bass player,
Right.
Cousin Dick Hyman. You really, I'm pretty sure you didn't have a choice, this love of music thing. Did you growing up?
It's love and music in my house because Renee Rosnes is my wife. Wow. And so there's even more music there. And that's so central, of course, to my life and my musical life. And yes, that's true. My father was a great theater composer, most famous for songs from Peter Pan, the Mary Martin production that has had it's an annuity, what
Wow.
Richard Rodgers would call that, the type of show that comes back every season. My mother is a great singer and still sounds like an angel.
Mm.
She sang with Benny Goodman, was on the Perry Como show, the Mitch Miller show. She was on Ed Sullivan, and we've made a number of albums together. And she still sounds just great. So I was lucky to grow up in that kind of household with all of that beautiful music.
Yeah. And your mom just had a birthday not too long ago, right?
That's right, just 2 days ago.
Oh my goodness, happy belated birthday. What'd you guys do, if I may ask?
Well, we just spent some time together and had a nice meal.
Oh, that's cool, man. So did you grow up in the theater? Like, were you always, it seems like you would have always been around music and musicians.
I was always around music and musicians, and especially songwriters and musicians from the theater, at least in my early life. My father passed away when I was 7 years old. So up until that time, there were his collaborators, lyricists, people he was working with, and close friends of our family who would come by. My father and Charles Strauss were at one time roommates when they were young kids. And, Charles Strauss, of course, went on to write Bye Bye Birdie and Annie and so many wonderful songs, including the theme song to All in the Family. And I remember sitting next to Charles, who's known as
Wow.
Strauss, actually, by the people that know him. And many, many other people. Yip Harburg, the great lyricist who wrote Over the Rainbow and so many great songs with Harold Arlen, and Vernon Duke and others. Alan and Marilyn Bergman, who are two of my best friends and I've known since I was a child. And other friends of my parents, people like Dave McKenna and just lots of musicians were in and out of my house.
Wow, man. What an amazing upbringing. Wow, that's incredible.
Well, I was very lucky, and those people all shared great things with me. And I was very lucky to have the experience of being around them. I didn't know who they were at the time. That was just, that's your Uncle Yip. And he was wonderful with children, as you could think. You can't write Follow the Yellow Brick Road without understanding something about a child's mind.
Right. Wow. So I'm curious to know, because you started out, as most kids learning and gravitating towards piano do. I know I started out myself playing classical piano. How did you find your way to jazz? Did your mom encourage you, or?
The truth is, I never played anything except improvised music of some sort. I made it up. Now, I studied classical piano later, but I was never geared towards being a classical pianist in any kind of way. Everything I learned by ear. And it was going to the High School for the Performing Arts in particular, where two of my best friends were great. They were both great concert pianists. One of them, a young lady from Korea, who just could sight read just about anything and technically play anything. Another one, a good friend of mine, Eleanor Beinman, who's from Latvia, and she just played with command and poise and artistry right away, and a complete command of the piano. And really, I didn't have that kind of training by any means. It brought me up to speed, and I had to start learning how to play the instrument better. But one thing I could do was, I remember an early teacher of mine, I would go to his house and he would play a little bit of Chopin Revolutionary Etude, and I like to see his left hand whipping around there. And I always listened to all of the music because of his father. I knew the composers. I was a fan. I listened to the great composers, but I wasn't trying to be Ashkenazi. But I remember he asked me when I went over to his place, he said, now, after my lesson, and I couldn't even think about playing anything close to that, he'd say, play me that cantina band music. And what he meant by that was nothing ignorant. He was talking about the band music from Star Wars when they're in the bar, which is called Cantina Band. It's written by John Williams. Who was
Oh,
Johnny Williams, you know, a great jazz piano player who wrote songs like Make Me Rainbows and other beautiful things, and then went on to conduct the Boston Pops. But anyway, I'm sorry, what was I saying? I lost.
you were talking about, how you eventually had to properly
Oh,
learn the piano.
well, I remember he'd say, play that Cantina Band music, and I played. And I remember thinking at that point, well, why is he asking me to play that? Because he can play anything. But so I understood that there was a different feeling in the music I was feeling, you know, so I
Huh,
didn't feel too discouraged.
yeah,
I mean, it's a bit of a simplification, but I do remember that moment and thinking that and feeling that at the High School for the Performing Arts too, understanding that we all had a story to tell. And that was great about going to PA because you had everybody was there, you know. It was
yeah.
African American, it was white, it was Armenian, it was Korean, it was rich, it was poor, it was gospel music, it was jazz, it was classical music, it was kind of everything. And so it was real New York. So you were learning things, you know. Roger Holland went to school a couple classes after me, wonderful singer and musician who used to be in the James Williams group that was sort of a mixture of gospel music and jazz.
Oh, yeah.
He taught me about the Walter Hawkins family, which I'd never have known.
Incredible.
And we had a beautiful gospel choir. Keisha Lewis was in it, who became one of the Dream Girls. You know,
Wow.
where was I going to get that experience? And so it was wonderful. That was important. And that brought me further and further towards the music that I was playing.
Yeah. Do you remember what your first jazz club experience was?
Do you mean going to hear jazz or playing jazz?
Going to hear it.
I remember what my first jazz listening experience was, and it wasn't a club. It was Eddie Locke, the great drummer, who was a protege of Joe Jones, and the drummer of choice often for Roy Eldridge and Coleman Hawkins, and from Detroit, very close friends with, and they had a trio for that matter, with Roland Hanna, Tommy Flanagan, the entire Detroit scene. Now, I didn't understand the depth of that at the time. I just knew that Eddie was unbelievable, an unbelievable presence. I went to the town school, which was a private school, a small private school on East 76th Street, 76th Street in the river, all the way on the FDR.
Mhm.
And the headmaster of the school turned out to be very good friends with Eddie Locke. Now, I think I was in about fourth grade. And at this time, there was a resurgence of Scott Joplin's music.
Hmm.
Because The Sting was a big movie, and Marvin Hamlish had arranged Joplin's music, and also Joshua Rifkin had just made some important albums for None Such. And then people like Dick Hyman did the complete works, things like that. But there was a resurgence in ragtime. Max Morath, a bunch of people like that. So Eddie came and played for the fourth grade class. The whole assembly was only first through eighth grade. And the whole assembly, he came with a pianist called Johnny Morris, and they played Solace of Scott Joplin. Now, Solace is a very special piece, and Joplin wrote waltzes, marches, ragtime two-steps, but he only wrote one Mexican serenade, and that's Solace. You know the piece. It's very famous from The Sting. Anyway, Eddie played, and when they got to do da 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 do do da 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 do da 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 da, Eddie starts going, and it was like, oh, wow, this is really something. It's the first great jazz musician that I heard live. More importantly, a few years later, now I'm in the seventh or eighth grade, and they let me sit in the front and crouch down with the first graders. Eddie Locke came to school, this time with Major Holly and Roland Hanna.
Wow.
That was it. I'll never forget that because, you know, the thing about it was this. It seemed like they had their own, well, I remember exactly what I thought. That music is so beautiful. It's the most beautiful thing I ever heard. It sounds so hard. to me, I realized they had to be such master musicians to do what they were doing. Yet they were smiling at each other, and they were effortless, and they were like their own private community, and they dressed different than everybody else, and they
Yeah.
looked hip, and they looked relaxed. And I remember taking the bus home that day. I took the M30 bus around 72nd Street up Fifth Avenue, and the whole time I was thinking about one of the songs they played, which I thought had one of the wildest titles I had ever heard in my life. It was called On Green Dolphin Street.
Oh, wow.
And so I asked my mother when I got home, Mom, have you ever heard of a song called On Green Dolphin Street? She had told me that she had heard of the song.
Of course.
So anyway, I'm riding my bike on the Upper West Side a couple of weeks later, and I see Roland Hanna is driving his car. It's this big white car, and he rolls down the window and waves at me and says, "Hey, how are you?" I had met them and talked to them, and I couldn't believe it that he recognized who I was. I was just a kid.
Really?
And it was that kind of warmth and that level of giving that was so important. I didn't always stay in school in high school till the end of the day. There were occasional times when fourth period was enough for me. And I would go over to the GM building where they dropped the ball on New Year's Eve, where they used to have the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And they had Fats Waller's piano there. And I used to go and play that piano. And Walter Bishop, not Junior, who played with Bird, of course, the great pianist, his father, Walter Bishop Sr., who had been friends with Duke Ellington and Art Tatum. And he used to sit there when I would play, and he was very encouraging. He wrote some songs, too, and some solo piano pieces. Dakota Staton recorded some of his songs with wonderful titles like Life May Not Be Easy, But It Beats Oblivion. That was a good one. She also had a hit with Sex is a Misdemeanor, the more you misdemeanor you get. That was Walter Bishop Sr. Anyway, those people really, as Fred Rogers says, one of my favorite things he says is, think about the people who loved you into being. Those were some of them. And Eddie became a great mentor and a real, like family to me for all the years, as I graduated, we got to know each other and became close. Man,
wow. So from those early on experiences that really just kind of shaped you, 30, almost 30 albums you have now that you've been recording on later. What was your very first, I'm just curious, what was your very first recording experience like as a professional?
Making an actual commercially recorded album?
Well, in general, just in the studio.
Well, we used to, remember we were going to a professional high school of sorts. So we were aware that recording studios were there and available. And sometimes we would go in there, me and my friend John Gordon, who's still playing brilliantly out here, and some other musicians. We might go in and rent some time in a recording studio to see where we were at. So that was the first experiences. But my first professional record, I think, is it's a compilation of music mostly by Vince Guaraldi. It's Charlie Brown. Happy Birthday, Charlie Brown. It was on GRP, and it was one tune on that album. There's many people on the album, everyone from Dave Brubeck to Chick Corea to Barry Mulligan to B.B. King to Joe Williams. It was one of those kind of all-star albums.
Great company.
Wonderful. I played on one track very timidly, the best that I could, but Jerry sounded like an angel. That was my first record. And one thing I remember is that we walked in, he did one take, and we were done. And I thought, okay, now I see how these guys work.
Wow. That's a standard to be set there. Wow. My God.
Yeah.
So moving on now to your trio has been around for it coming on 25 years this year?
Well, our first time playing together is in December of 1997. So I think it's 24. I'm not certain of the math. I think it's 24.
Wow. So you've got both Washingtons,
Yeah.
Peter on bass, Kenny on drums. You guys, gosh, the synergy between the three of you, there's no wonder you've been together for so long. You're getting ready to celebrate an anniversary, and you've got an album that I hear that you're working on that's going to
Yes.
be
Well,
dropped in
the
October.
album is finished, and now we're working on some of the post production of getting it ready to put in the shrink wrap. But we have re-signed to Blue Note, and we're very delighted to be there. And the album is going to be out in November. And
Oh, in November. Okay.
Kenny and Peter played magnificently on it. I'm very happy with how it came out, and the great engineer James Farber contributed immeasurably to the overall quality. His brilliance in capturing such a beautiful recorded sound. The album's called Street of Dreams, is what we're going to call it.
I love it. Can you give us a little insight into what we can expect to hear? Are they going to be
Well,
original compositions? What do we have to look forward to here?
say that there are any original compositions. I can say that there's music by Kenny Burrell and Dave
Nice.
Brubeck and Billy Strayhorn and Frank Lesser and Victor Young and Burton Lane and Michel Legrand,
Wow, great.
and among others.
Oh man, absolutely cannot wait for that one.
Thank
But in the meantime, I'm just so glad.
you. Oh, if I may, I'd love to
Yeah.
tell you about another album, which is one of the great things that I experienced during this um, really unprecedented time.
Yeah.
And that was watching and witnessing uh, my wife, Rini, compose 9 pieces from the beginning, the genesis of the germ of an idea, to full-fledged compositions, and then being a fly on the wall for some of the recording session, which she did with Christian McBride, Carl Allen, Chris Potter, and Joserio Bocato.
Wow.
And the album is called Kinds of Love, and it's coming out on Smoke Sessions in October. And it is just a brilliant, brilliant piece of work. So that's something else to look forward to.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I'm curious to know, being married to the great Renee Rosnes, what is life like on the daily? How do you guys practice? How do you do that? Like, how do you work together creatively living? I'm curious. I'm curious to know because you guys are both amazing.
Somehow it's instinctual in terms of what we need for each other. And sometimes there might be an adjustment. She's a composer, a very heavyweight composer, and a composer can use silence because they're hearing music from their inner ear. And she's also a virtuoso pianist, and I'm not really a composer. So I like to listen to music a lot, a lot, a lot. She is extremely well listened and versed and knows the whole history, of course. But so in that case, sometimes maybe it's an adjustment. Maybe at that point, this is a good time to practice in my office, or maybe at that point, most of the time in pre-COVID days, one of us is on the road, one of us is home. When we're home, we want to be together. It's not so much about practicing all the time.
Yeah.
Although we both do, of course, make time to maintain our craft and develop whatever it is that's next.
Yeah, but being present is important. That's a great lesson.
But it works out. We just somehow are able to instinctually work that out together, even though our pianos are nested right in the middle of the living room. So are our lives. So
I love it.
that's the point.
I know you're always constantly amazed by each other and just, moved by each other's creativity. I know Artemis is just such an amazing group. And not to get into that too much, but I absolutely noticed you must have been enthralled seeing that whole thing come together.
It's just an incredible band, and the album that they made for Blue Note is phenomenal. all of the players are just such great musicians. And I heard them play up at Saratoga recently, which was wonderful to hear them live and hear live music. It was a brilliant concert with many great artists. I was there for a day that featured Al Di Meola, um, Cecile McLaurin-Salvant, and Artemis. And it was just a brilliant concert. Nicole Glover has joined the band,
Nice.
taking over for Melissa Aldana, and she is just an unbelievable player.
Yes.
And it's just thrilling to hear somebody come up with that much command and that much musicianship. And the whole band is wonderful. Allison Miller, Noriko Ueda, Ingrid Jensen. They're just all great.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely incredible group of women there. Now, we've got some great stuff to look forward to at 92Y. Of course, you're the artistic director. And it's interesting that, coming out of this whole pandemic, we've been so starved of live music. I was so grateful to you, I should say, that during the pandemic, one of the shows I got to see it was a private show outdoors for Jazz House kids.
Oh, you were there.
I was there, and I was so grateful to hear you and to hear. I was so hungry for music.
Well, that was a delightful night of music. And, I was playing in duet with Christian McBride. You can't get a better magic carpet than that. There's just simply no one of whom there is none better. And, he's just effervescent, and what a brilliant musician, just a joy to play with. And Jasmia Horn sang that night with her wonderful band too. So it was just a lovely night on the outside, on the lawn. It was great to be together. That was before the winter, the long winter.
Yes, it was. But July is here now.
Yes.
And you're bringing music back live to 92Y. Tell us what you have planned for Jazz in July.
Well, I'm delighted that we are going to be performing these two concerts. We'll be on the 20th of July and the 27th of July. Now, usually it's a 6-concert series, but we're just coming back, and we're going to do just the 2 concerts this time. But they're absolutely marvelous concerts in one of the great halls in New York City. It's about 1,000-seat hall, 92nd Street and Lexington Avenue. The concert series has been going on for, I've been the artistic director for about 16 years. And before me was the great Dick Hyman, one of my great mentors, and a distant cousin on my father's side, and certainly one of the all-time giants of this music. And he's still in his 90s going strong and playing. He's still cleaning all of our clocks.
Oh, wow.
But he was artistic director for 20 years, me for 16 years. So it's been going on a very long time. And just about everyone you can imagine has performed. Jimmy Heath, Benny Golson, Billy Taylor, Ray Bryant, Hank Jones, Barry Harris, Freddie Cole, Ernie Andrews, Jim Hall, Joe Lovano, Tom Harrell, James Moody, John Faddis, Warren Vacher, et cetera, Wynton Marsalis, Kenny Barron, as well as Aaron Deal, Cecile McLaurin-Salvant, Roxy Cass, all kinds of people who are throughout this music. Anyway, what we're doing on the 20th is a concert I'm very excited about. It is featuring the great Kurt Elling. And his voice is just so robust.
Like butter on toast.
Like butter on toast, and the imagination and the poetic insight into the lyric and to the story that he's telling. He has so much imagination. I love making music with Kurt Elling and his beautiful singing and concept. And we'll be with the great Carl Allen, one of the giants of the drums today, the great David Wong, who is such a perfect musician, such beautiful notes and beautiful time, and he's really become one of the best bass players in the world today. The combination of he and Carl Allen, they both have such distinct, beautiful sounds, and the rhythm section is so superb. And then one of my favorite musicians in the world today, Steve Wilson, who
Mm,
has such an incredible imagination. He picks these notes that kind of fertilize the sound. It has such a great sound, and the way he comes out of everything from Benny Carter to Charlie Parker to Jackie McLean to plenty of Steve Wilson. He's
yeah,
about the best that there is. So that's the combination, and that's the concert that we're going to be doing. And I look forward to that so much.
nice. So that's the 20th. And then on the 27th, Diane Reeves.
Yes, indeed.
Wow.
I mean, what can I say? She is just, you know, besides, she just won the Monterey's Jazz Legends Award. She's an NEA Jazz Master. She's got an honorary doctorate from the Juilliard School, Grammy winner, and simply a clarion voice. And she's just one of the most important musicians in the world today. There is nobody like her. And I just can't wait to perform with her. We've never played together before, so this is the first time.
Oh,
And it will be with my trio with Kenny Washington and Peter Washington. So I'm really, I can't tell you enough how much I'm looking forward to that concert and to have the joy of hearing her gorgeous instrument and conception and to collaborate with her.
yeah, man. That's going to be absolutely historic, it sounds. I can't wait for that. You know, one of the things about you mentioned about Diane, that she, well, maybe I was thinking this in my head. I don't know if you mentioned it, but she's always, it seems like giving back to people who are bringing this music along now.
Oh,
I just recently heard her, I think it was on the Baylor Project's new
mm,
album, but she's always linking up with who's new and next, Jasmine Horn, just like you know, you're always, it seems like nurturing the next generation. Like you've played with Aaron Deal. Who would you say, I guess, not to use the theme of the show, but the pulse? Who's on the pulse in your mind? Who's new and who's next?
well, Nicole Glover, I think, is really going to be an important voice in this music. Um, Boy, there's, I don't want to, I'm going to necessarily leave somebody out that I don't mean to leave out, but there's a lot of wonderful, brilliant young talents coming up. And I think that the future of the music is in very good hands.
Absolutely. Man, well, I just want to thank you for everything that you are doing to give back and to continue to keep this music viable. It's so important.
Well, I feel very blessed to have the opportunity to connect with people artistically, to have such a rich relationship with the other musicians that I play with, and with Kenny Washington and Peter Washington, and with Rini, and with my students. And I feel a great blessing. I feel very lucky to have known and continue to know the great artists of this music who I admire so much. I should mention, just a quick commercial,
Yeah.
the concerts start at 7:30 p.m. They're at 92nd Street, 92Y, which is the 92nd Street Y on Lexington Avenue and 92nd Street. And they are also going to be live streamed.
Oh, good.
The concerts are without intermission, an hour long, and they are full capacity audience as long as you can show that you're vaccinated. And I believe the tickets are available on 92y.org. Just look up Jazz in July, or you can look on my Instagram or my Facebook.
Love it. And speaking of Rini, coming out of this whole panorama that we just came out of, hopefully we're out of, do you have material that could maybe work for a duo album again?
Well, there's no doubt about it. We have got a number of duo concerts we're going to be playing in Chautauqua in August, a wonderful festival that is up there. Also in Boise, Boise, Idaho later in December. And we certainly will do that again. It's been a joy to play together
Yeah.
during this time. And of course, it's been quite a while since we've recorded. So we've both grown individually and also as a duo. I should also mention that she's going to be playing with the maestro, Sir Ron Carter.
Wow.
And that is going to be, I have it right here. I just have to look at what's happening on our
Yeah.
schedule.
I love it. I love how you all, big each other up. That's
No,
amazing.
we're fans, and we're fans of each other. And of course, there's nothing better than going and hearing the maestro play, and Renee and Peyton Crossley and Jimmy Green make for such a beautiful group together with him. They're going to be at the Blue Note on August 4th through 8th.
Oh, nice. It's part of the festival. The Blue Note Festival.
Perhaps it is. I don't know that, but I just know that those are the dates. And like that. And the trio will be back at the Village Vanguard in September for 2 weeks. And I'll be doing also a week of duets with Dee Dee Bridgewater at
Nice.
Birdland. Dee Dee and I have been doing some duo concerts, and we plan to do quite a few more.
And where did you say that would be?
At Birdland in New York
Oh,
City.
Birdland. Okay.
First
All
week of November.
Awesome. Hopefully you can get a tour going too once the album.
Oh, we certainly will. We have many dates around the country and around the world, and things keep coming in. So we feel very blessed and very lucky, and we're coming out of this together. And time will show the changes that we have, but I feel optimistic about the future, as I think many of us do now. So straight
Yeah. So glad to hear that. Bill Charlap, thank you.
Keanna, thank you so much. It's lovely talking with you, and it's so nice of you to have me on your show.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been an honor. Thank you. And we're looking forward to seeing you at 92Y.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great night.
You too. All the
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And thank you guys so much for tuning in to The Pulse. You can always check this out online at wbgo.org right after it airs. This will be up by Friday, and be sure to follow all things Bill Charlap at billcharlap.com. And don't forget 92y.org to get your tickets. The shows are happening July 20th and the 27th, to include special guests. Kurt Elling and Diane Reeves is going to be killing. All right.
Thank you so much.
Good night. You're welcome.
Good night.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.